Today we have our third and final part in our 3-part series with the very knowledgeable Rebecca Wakefield, the Lincolnshire nutritionist. I'm going to have to watch this series again, I think, and make some notes. This series is packed full of so much helpful information and insights. So I can't wait to get started up with part 3. Since I've been learning more about this, when I'm reading ingredients on package, there's like loads of ingredients in some of those processed foods, I guess, and stuff that I've never heard of, which is always not a good sign. And I guess what we're learning now is that the processed foods, a lot of it is a factor in causing chronic illness, such as heart disease, and you touched on diabetes and stuff like that. The doctors have been telling us forever, haven't they, that we should avoid sugar and that sort of thing. But
well, the doctors tend to go down the fat phobic line. Don't eat fats. So we've grown up in this generation of fats are bad because we're all going to get heart attacks if we eat too many fats. There's definitely evidence and research out there that shows that people with Alzheimer's, for example, usually have very low cholesterol. And obviously a lot of statin medications are designed to lower cholesterol because of the role cholesterol plays in heart health, etc. But as I said before, every cell in our body has a fatty lipid layer, and our brains are like 80% fat. So fats are really important, but what is more important is understanding which fats are beneficial and which fats are not. And there is a really important distinction there. So your beneficial fats are found in your oily fish, your nuts, your seeds, your plant-based source of fats. And those essential fats are super important because, and again, going back to females and hormonal health, all our hormones are made from cholesterol. That's super important.
Absolutely. What kind of alternatives can we consider? So I'm thinking to sweeten up, a nice healthy bowl of nuts and seeds with some yogurt, some Greek yogurt maybe. Would a dash of maple syrup or date syrup be all right? Or what do you think about that?
Again, this is really, my advice would be specific to that individual. So if that individual had issues with sugar and fatigue and things like that, then I would be quite, you really need to avoid the maple syrup because of A, B, C, and D, etc. I would prefer, if you want to sweeten your foods, I would definitely prefer you went down the route of using berries. So strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, because it's not just the sweetness of them, but the plant chemicals in berries are phenomenal. So they provide us with so many different immune health benefits as well, antioxidants. So this is the other thing about the body. The body is absolutely amazing at helping us stay alive, basically. It will go through every mechanism possible to do that. But ultimately, if we don't provide them with the resources, the body can't do its job, which is to keep us going, keep us alive, etc. Depending on what was going on in our lives, we may have a higher demand for these antioxidants. So they put out the fires in the body. So if we've got ill health or something is driving ill health, the body can naturally make antioxidants, but we need the building blocks. And then additional antioxidants can come from our diet. So a lot of people may have heard in the news about the Mediterranean diet. Again, I'm not the sort of nutritionist that promotes any diet above another. And in fact, I hate the word diet because it's about each individual, what food you may be lacking in or need more of, etc., and things like that. But ultimately, in a nutshell, the Mediterranean diet advocates for healthy fats. So you've got your olive oils, your nuts, your seeds, things like that, in your oily fish, your colour, so plants and vegetables. They provide the plant chemicals that support our antioxidants, reduce inflammation, but they also provide fibre, which supports our gut health and feeds those bacteria. Plants, colour, healthy fats and proteins are literally the building block to any preventative health diet.
And I'm just thinking, because we are complex systems, really, and a lot of this is individual, what's the best way for us to find out if we are lacking in something? Is there a test that we can take that tells us that we're low in B12 or whatever?
Yeah, so different tests serve different purposes. So you can go to the doctors, for example, and get a B12 blood test. However, as a nutritional therapist, B12 in the serum is not necessarily a very accurate representation of how your body is using the B12. So different tests offer different benefits for each client. The first thing I would say is listen to your body. Your body will tell you if you're in need of something. So again, whether that's dietary nutrients or sleep or less stress, etc., that is important. So if you're feeling fatigued, or if you're catching colds all the time, or your menstrual health is all over the place, then the first thing would be to look at those key factors like, am I eating enough? Am I eating well? Is there colour, protein, healthy fats in my diet, etc.? And tick all those boxes. And then if you've done that and you're still not feeling 100%, then that's effectively where I come in to obviously address your diet, but recommend what types of tests can help us decide what extra support you need in terms of nutritional supplements, for example. And I usually use a combination of blood tests and urine tests. So we call those organic acids. The body expels different compounds in the urine that we can use to measure deficiencies in different aspects of health, so nutrients in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it feels complicated, and we really need the help of people like you, really, to design nutritional plans, etc. Because I think it is quite complex. And
well, my job is I do all the complex stuff and deliver it to you in a way that's easy to understand. So again, depending on what client I'm working with, I interpret that information for you to understand. And effectively what I'm doing is linking what your current behaviors are and how that links into your symptoms. So the testing and all that sort of stuff, you don't need to worry about, because I'll explain to you why that is impacting on your health and what we need to do about that. So I am not the type of nutritionist that does diet plans, because it almost feeds into that short-term solution aspect. So what's more important is to understand what we need more of, what we need less of, and working out, well, maybe we could change some breakfast, different ideas and things like that. But I think if you have a plan of what to eat and when to eat, it takes out the empowerment for you to decide what's working for you. And then suddenly you're sort of a weight loss class, for example, and they're saying this is good, this is bad, but ultimately you're not going to sustain that in the long term. So being able to make those decisions yourself, make those changes with my guidance, means that in the long term you can sustain that, because you'll see the effects that you're having, and you'll want to sustain that. You won't want to go back to feeling ill again.
I'm just interrupting this episode just for a few short moments to let you know that I've got a page where you can leave me a voice message. I want to make these podcasts as interactive as possible, and wherever I can, include you, my brilliant listeners, into these episodes. So head over to speakpipe.com/Angeline and go ahead and leave me a message. It could be a question, it could be a review. You might even want to let me know what you'd like to hear on the upcoming episodes. Whatever it is, please drop me a message, and we might even include your message in upcoming episodes. I'll endeavour to answer all the questions, but I can't guarantee that I'll get to all of them, but I'll certainly give it a good go. Anyway, let's get back to it.
give us a couple of basics. People are stressed, people are so busy. You were talking earlier about nurses in particular, and lots of people that are they're so tired after a day's work. What are some simple steps that people could make this week that might be realistic, that they can just make a couple of small changes? What would you advise?
Okay. Sometimes it could just be that this week you need to plan for the next week. So just do what you're already doing, but start to make a plan. And that plan could be based around when you're getting your shopping in, what are you buying, or sort of planning what you want to eat based on your schedule, what's going on, etc. And then just making sure that everything's in place so that the next week you've got the food in your cupboard, because a lot of people struggle on what to eat because they've not had the chance to get the shopping in to actually cook anything, and they're like, oh, well, let's just get the chicken and chips out the freezer again because it's quick and easy, etc. So sometimes the planning this week is all you can do. But if you know that you've got plenty of food in the fridge and things like that, and that's not an aspect for you, then I would go back to making sure that you're not fasting. Again, this is only if you're ill and you're struggling with symptoms and stress and fatigue and things like that. So breakfast is a really important missed opportunity by so many people to be packed full of nutrients and protein, and it gives you that start of the day. So a lot of clients don't feel hungry in the morning or don't have time. They're my two classic sort of reasons for not eating breakfast. If you're not feeling hungry when you're waking up or within half an hour to an hour of waking up, then that shows me that you have a problem with your blood sugar regulation, because it's likely that you've had a cortisol spike in the night to support your low blood sugars, and now you're not feeling hungry, and you might even feel a bit sick at the thought of food because your blood sugar isn't where it's supposed to be. So again, even if it's just having a small snack for breakfast when you couldn't normally stomach anything, that's a start to get you going. But if you are eating breakfast and you're only having toast or cereal and things like that, then maybe think about what we can do to upgrade that breakfast. So eggs are a fantastic and quick and easy breakfast or fast food. You can add some sprinkle of nuts and seeds. People always freak out when I talk about breakfast because it's so ingrained in us. It's got to be toast or cereal. Anything else other than that is just like, what a weirdo. And for years, in fact, up until I was 37, my breakfast was 2 slices of toast with butter and Marmite. That was my breakfast. And by 11 o'clock, I was hungry. And then I was snacking. And that was my blood sugar roller coaster going on. So now I'll have eggs. I might have leftover meals. I might have hummus or lentils on toast. I always have something green, something salady, because that's just the habit and the routine that I've got into. So look at your breakfast. Think about how you can improve that. Scrambled eggs, a handful of rocket, olive oil, nuts and seeds, super fast and easy, but really nutritious and will keep you going for a lot longer. So breakfast is a missed opportunity, really, if you're starting out and you want to know what you can do to help yourself feel better.
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier, great for brain health. If we're going to work, we need all the help we can get, don't we? So that
and kids as well. I started this journey when my children were sort of 10 and under. So by that sort of time, they'd already established their patterns of what they eat and when they eat, etc. And so when I finally started practicing in their teenage years, what do I know? They don't listen to what I have to say. So my 17-year-old will leave the house and not eat at all. Whereas my youngest really struggles with anxiety and mood issues. He's autistic, so that's all part of the element of everything. So breakfast is super, super important for him. So it's not just about adults getting ready for the day ahead. Children, it's really important as well that we have a good breakfast, because the brain needs tons of energy. So they're sat in these classrooms learning and studying, and if they've not had any breakfast, then the same for adults. Your blood sugar is going to drop, then you're going to feel irritable, hungry, maybe feeling a bit sick. Anxiety can then increase, etc. So yeah, everybody, breakfast, children and adults, breakfast is super important.
I'm just thinking that this stuff is so important. You mentioned at the beginning that the consequence really of the lifestyles that we live now is it can be brutal. And, we've both had loved ones that, like I said, Mum really struggled with food. She loved food, bless her, and it really had a terrible impact on her health. And everything that you've been saying today, it impacts our daily lives in such a huge way. How we function at work, how we function in our relationships, the energy levels that we have, our mood, our happiness, ultimately.
And longevity.
And the risk of becoming chronically ill, all those things have become more of a norm.
And the sad fact is that when you do start those illnesses or those risk factors creep in, your blood markers are showing high cholesterol or high blood sugar, etc., then the medications themselves, they make your markers look better on a piece of paper, but they don't necessarily increase your longevity, because you're still having the same behaviors in terms of your diet and lifestyle and things. And if those aren't addressed, then the medications can only go so far. And the medications themselves, we know, have side effects that can impact on your health, and they can also deplete nutrients. So sometimes they can contribute in the long term to your health issues. Looking at a holistic approach, using medications with guidance from your GP whilst you're also supporting your health issues, means that you don't necessarily need to stay on those medications long term. Again, obviously, every case is unique, so always seek guidance from your doctors about your medications, etc., and never stop any medications without your doctor's guidance. but they do play a part in our health. So it's important that we are addressing a diet and lifestyle alongside taking those medications.
And the science is compelling that if we can adopt these pillars of living medicine, nutrition, massive part of that, then we are far less likely to suffer with some of these chronic illnesses. Obviously, there's exceptions, but the statistics are that we are less likely to suffer those. I actually think that it should be a tax deductible, that we get a change in our tax code. We should be able to access more living medicine. So whatever works for the individual, acupuncture, mindfulness, nutrition.
The cynic in me would say that there's no money in that for the powers that be. What we've got to understand is that there's some massive industries out there, pharmaceutical industries, dairy industries, meat industries, that have a massive lobbying effect for people that make the rules. So there's a lot of money in those aspects. So ultimately, what benefit of you being well versus you being ill, that's what they're weighing up. But they don't look at people. I remember when my dad was poorly, and I remember thinking, especially when in those final few days, obviously the staff in the hospital were great, but they'd seen 1,000 other people like him. They didn't know him as that unique person, individual. They were treating a sick person. And your identity is lost when you're in that conveyor belt of illness, because it's a case of, you have this, and this is where the individual element is taken out. Your markers are this. So, for example, my husband, he started weight training recently. So he's a big guy, he's 6'4". So he's put on a lot of muscle, and his BMI is in the obese range. So the doctors were more thinking, he needs to be on statins and stuff like that, because they don't want to risk high cholesterol, heart attack, etc., because he's got high BMI. But he's got high BMI because he's actually doing stuff to support his health, and he's putting a lot of muscle mass, which is really good for you. So I've done it again. I've gone off on a tangent there. But yes, the conventional perspective doesn't necessarily take your unique story into consideration when helping you with your health.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important, isn't it? Because, like you say, when we go into the doctors, then there's the BMI is usually a big thing, isn't it? So, but there are exceptions.
Yeah. And women's health in particular, sometimes I could sit and cry with some of my clients, because there's just no answers. The answers to nearly every single hormonal health condition from conventional perspective is to provide hormonal treatments that effectively turn off our natural hormonal fluctuations. Or if you're in a certain age range and you've got a certain set of symptoms, then it's just, it's menopause, take some HRT. And there's so many factors, and definitely with perimenopause, thyroid health symptoms, underactive thyroid health symptoms strongly correlate with perimenopausal symptoms. So you might be put on hormonal medications that you don't actually need because other elements weren't looked into. So looking at that unique individual picture is so important.
Absolutely. And I was thinking there, that there is no benefit, that the corporations, the big business, if you like, they need to be, they're prioritized. The only benefit, I guess, would be that it would relieve the NHS. If we were living healthier, we would be less likely to need medication and less likely to need healthcare at the rate that we do now.
But I think everybody knows this. Everybody knows this, but yet nothing changes. And this, again, the skeptic in me knows, well, why does nothing change? So, we're all creatures of habit, I suppose. And literally, probably 9 out of 10 clients that I see, and I'm one of these people as well, I know and they know what it is that needs to change. But sometimes the thing that needs to change is the hardest thing. So we're always looking for something else, another solution, something that's maybe quicker, maybe less difficult. And so they need somebody like me to actually tell them what they already know, but help them put it into place, because it's quite difficult to change it. So it could be like me, I have a bit of a tendency towards eating probably too much chocolate. It is dark chocolate, but I still eat too much of it. I know that's an issue, but I would struggle to stop doing that unless I was, had health issues and somebody was telling me to do that. And a lot of clients know what it is, but they just can't find it within themselves to make those changes. And they need somebody to tell them or to support them with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, lovely listeners, everybody write to their MP and tell them what's for, that we need better food in our supermarkets. And we need a tax deduction to
I think,
access
especially in Lincolnshire, we have got access to amazing vegetables, green vegetables. So when you're in your supermarket, particularly, if you're living in Lincolnshire listening to this, and there's Spanish cauliflower in the stalls, and you know that you've driven past fields of cauliflower today, don't buy it. You support local farmers, because we have an amazing variety of good vegetables, good healthy foods in this country, but we're not necessarily eating enough of it or choosing the processed stuff in those middle aisles.
Absolutely. If people are wanting your help, where can they go? Where do they access? Where's the best way to contact you?
So my website is my best point of contact, and I have a Google page as well with a bit of information on there. I am one of these nutritionists that's absolutely rubbish at social media, so I probably post on it like once every 6 months. But on the other hand, I am busy, so I am supporting clients, etc. So I don't necessarily always have time to post information on there. But sometimes I think you can get information overwhelmed. There's so much stuff out there, you don't even know where to start. So head over to my website. It's got my whole story on there, why I started in nutrition, information about my service, my fees, etc. Some blogs. Again, I've been rubbish at updating those, but different health issues. But yeah, head over to my website, linksnutrition.co.uk, for more information about me.
Brilliant. What an interesting conversation. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've learned so much. And I just think that, there is a lot of information out there, but the more we hear about it, hopefully the closer we can get to making those changes, even if it's just a couple of small changes. But this stuff the statistics are really high, that if we don't start to take our health seriously, I don't think it's that we don't take it seriously. It's just that we've got nothing left with the lifestyles that we
don't have that connection between what we're eating and our health. Ultimately, that has been lost now. Whereas before, it was like a mainstay of simple foods that we were eating and cooking. But now we don't necessarily have, if both partners in the family are working, that time has been reduced in terms of cooking those simple foods, and then fatigue, impacts on our ability to have the foods in, to plan, etc. Children are being run around all over the place as well. They don't necessarily learn that connection between nutrition and health at school. So there's a massive disconnect in society now between we are what we eat effect and the quick solution of medications. But now, with more chronic illnesses becoming more prevalent, people are starting to realise that the quick fix is just not working. It's making them need more quick fixes. So
yeah, we need the 6 pillars in our education system, part of the curriculum, don't we? Really, we need to be taught to take care of ourselves a little bit better. Hence this podcast.
Yeah.
But
society needs to take care of us better, because if we're not given the opportunity, it's like teachers can't leave the classroom to go to the toilet. If you're a female and you're struggling with heavy menstrual period bleeds and you can't go to the toilet when you need to, that must be incredibly stressful.
Shocking, yeah.
But why is that environment not being provided? It all comes down to money at the end. There's no money for people to look after themselves better in the society that we work in.
That's shocking, isn't it? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
No problems. It's been great fun.
Absolutely. And, I'm sure that we'll have more discussions further down the line, because you've got a wealth of knowledge in there, a wealth of experience. So we really have benefited from talking with you today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And that's it for another episode of Happiness, Health and Relationships podcast. If you'd like to find out more ways that you can work with me, then head over to happinesshealthrelationshipspodcast.com. And I'll see you on the next episode.